Now, what is the aim of this conference, the meeting here, you are holding here in Kigali?
So we have membership across 47 of the 53 countries of the Commonwealth, and our members are made up of ministers of local government and mayors and presidents of local government associations. And every year we have our annual board meeting. And the board meeting this year, Rwanda, the government of Rwanda had agreed to host the meeting. So it's a chance for all of our members to meet, to raise their needs in relation to local government, which helps direct our work over the following year.
What are some of the needs that you're looking at compared to the last meeting in Malta?
So we've had quite a few needs in many countries that have been going into local government elections. So for example, in Sri Lanka, in the last year, we've helped them relook at their legislation for local government and preparing them for elections. We've been, although not a Commonwealth country, we've been supporting Zimbabwe in their transition and in supporting their local government. And one of the key needs is getting more gender representativity and getting more women involved in local government. Now, across the Commonwealth, Rwanda is the star performer in getting gender representation in local government. So I'm hoping that one of the key outcomes of this board meeting will be a greater recognition of how other Commonwealth countries can learn from Rwanda about getting women into local government.
Rwanda has got its own story about bridging the gender divide. What are some of the impediments for other countries to bridge the gender divide, especially in leadership roles, from your experience?
So I think from my experience, I mean, in many countries, women are not in the seat of political power, they're not in the seat of economic power. They're patriarchal societies, and very often the women that are in local government, or in government, very often are related to the men in government. And that's what we need to change. Women across many of our countries are community leaders, and it's making that transition from being a community leader into a political leader. And that Rwanda's done well. I think South Africa has done well. But in the other Commonwealth countries, they're still battling to making that transition from community leadership into political leadership.
So what is the most exciting story about the gender divide, the gender equality in Rwanda? What's more exciting for you?
So we monitor, on behalf of UN Women, we monitor the proportion of women in local government for the Sustainable Development Goal number 5. And every year we publish gender representativity in Parliament and in local government. And it's very clear that from across all the Commonwealth countries, the leader is and has been for some years Rwanda, where you have over 50% representation of women in local government. And that's a star performer. I mean, there's many countries, including many developed nations in the Commonwealth, that don't get anywhere near that.
So what are you trying to advise for other governments? Is it an issue of policy? Is it an issue of culture? Is it an issue of attitude? What are you trying to help other governments to do this?
So I think there's a responsibility of governments to do civic education, to help the communities realize that being a community leader, you can also be a political leader. It's about giving women space. Now, in some countries like Sri Lanka, they've actually put in a quota system as a first step. So 30% of all councillors in local government in Sri Lanka have to be women. And maybe having a quota system is the first step. I think it's also working with our patriarchal societies and saying that women, because women understand a lot of the community needs, they are very well equipped to be community leaders politically. So it's about civic education, it's about politically making space for them, making sure that women are also on the party lists. You know, and some political parties don't put enough women onto the party lists. So it's civic education and making political space.
If Rwanda is the star performer in gender equality, what would other countries in the CLGF, how would you rank them? Where are they in percentages or in implementation?
So I think there are some countries that have made big strides. I think South Africa's made big strides, and again that came from like Rwanda's came from a very bad background with great divide between different parts of the community, and women I think stepped into the role of trying to heal the country. So I think countries like South Africa have done really well. Countries like Zimbabwe are doing well. Sri Lanka's now got 30%, and there has been a rapid increase in the number of women in local government, but it's work that we still have to do.
In terms of budget, so what are you going to do?
So we have we have two networks, the Women's Network, and the other network we have is the Cities Network. And that is a meeting we're having straight after the board meeting, which is our annual meeting on the Commonwealth Sustainable Cities. And there we're looking at a few things. One of the important things we're looking at is trade and investment. We're also looking at inclusion and how cities, because cities can be very exclusive places, so how do cities become more inclusive economically and socially? And gender also works its way in there. But importantly, we're increasingly looking at trade and investment, because cities are the engines of growth for many, many countries. And how do cities to cities engage with each other around trade and investment? How do cities make themselves attractive for inward investment? Because if the cities get that right, then the country gets that right.
And how are you going to do that?
Well, we are having a panel discussion on different themes in the Cities Network, where best practice and good practice can be shared across all board members. So we have some members here have done a lot, and it's just so that members can actually learn from each other. We will also hopefully we will hear from the members what they want us to do with the Cities Network. I mean, what other areas do they want us to explore with them, and what opportunities can we give them globally in relation to supporting city learning.
Do you have examples of cities that performed well?
There are many cities across the world that have performed well, and but they are normally cities that have had to look at their infrastructure, look at the opportunities, how they partner with the private sector and the academic sector. There are many, many countries, many cities across the world that have done incredibly well. Singapore, Cape Town, Johannesburg. Across the Commonwealth, there are many, many cities that have done well.
Can I ask a very stupid question?
Yes.
What does it mean to be a sustainable city, in your opinion?
So I think it's a city that is growing. It's a city where there are economic opportunities. I think it's a city where there is declining poverty, where you don't have a peri-urban fringe of poverty with no opportunities. It's a city that is safe, and a city that is inclusive. And I think those are probably some of the key areas that, we've got a huge urbanization going on in the world, and there are cities that are growing at an enormous rate. I mean, Dar es Salaam is expected to grow by 85% over the next 15 years. Now, Dar es Salaam needs to look at some good practice examples and have some really careful planning going forward. Otherwise, it's going to be a city without opportunities.
So when you choose to use the means of trade and investment between these countries, I assume they have not been doing trade and investment among themselves on a wider scale. Why would you choose trade and investment as a starting point for having sustainable cities?
Because large parts of the economy are in the cities. And it's not just cities, it's also subnational. So let me take in Africa. If you take the Gauteng region in South Africa and you take the broader Lagos region in Nigeria, those two subnational regions make up a quarter of Africa's economy. So it's not at a national level, it's at a subnational level. And if those two regions got their economy wrong, it would have a profound effect on the economy of Africa. So that's why it's fine to have trade deals at a national level, but it needs to be meaningful to people living on the ground and living in the cities. That's why we need to focus on cities.
Okay, last question. What does this meeting have to do with the CHOGM that is going to happen in 2020? Does it have anything?
So yes, because we are one of the Commonwealth organisations. So the outcomes of the board meeting, the outcomes of the Cities Network will go to our conference that we have in Sri Lanka next year, and the outcomes of that will be fed into CHOGM. So it's not just a standalone. We hope to make sure that there is input into CHOGM that will be held in Kigali.
Thank you very much, Dr. Greg.
Wonderful. Okay. Thank you.